on Milestones, where we explore educational opportunities for young men and women beyond traditional college, all from a Christ-centered perspective. I'm Lee Bortons. I'm here with my co-host, Amanda Kleist. Today is Wednesday, March 20th, 2024, and we're joined by John Bowers of Proclaim International, a ministry that participates in performing arts, it looks like all around the world. Welcome, John.
Thank you for having me. I enjoy being here already.
That's great. So Amanda's your connection. So I don't know, Amanda, do you want to introduce how you know one another and start off with the questions today?
Sure. And John and I have met each other through an introduction through Lee, one of the people who serves in California helping build classical conversations communities. And she met him at her church or actually met somebody else at her church who introduced her to John. So this is all the network of Christians loving each other and sharing things that are about making God known. So all came through an introduction from a church presentation.
That is great. So tell us about Proclaim International and how young folks and old, whatever, age, can use it as a marker and a milestone to build not just their own experience, but the body of Christ.
God in his infinite creativity sometimes calls musicians and artists to go into missions full time. And in doing that, he opens opportunities for us to communicate in very profound ways to people who would probably never go to a church, even if they were befriended and invited. We work in places, most of the places where we work, Christianity would be considered boring, uninteresting, doesn't have anything to offer, or maybe actually an enemy of their own culture and religion. So in those areas, people who are trying to start churches or doing mission work often find it very challenging to do any kind of public ministry and have a very difficult time getting people to come to their churches because they're usually very small. They look like they're on the fringe of the culture. They don't look very mainstream, but they know what a concert is. And so where they wouldn't go to a church, they'll go to a concert, especially if it's something outdoors, where really high quality music is being offered for free. And so that's the kind of thing that we've been doing. I've been doing this for over 50 years. I started right out of college. I was a musician and got gloriously saved. I tell people I got saved and I never recovered from it. So I auditioned for the Ministry of Campus Crusade for Christ. And I didn't know that they had any music groups outside of the States, and they did not put me in any of those groups. And they sent me to London, England, to be in a band that was touring primarily in Great Britain, but then we began to tour all throughout Europe. So immediately I was thrust into this atmosphere where music provided a way to gather an audience, to capture their attention, and to, over the course of 2 hours, present the gospel of Jesus Christ, kind of backwards of the way most people do it, because it was a 20-minute message with an hour and a half of musical illustrations. But very effective. And over the years, people have invited us to come because they know, first of all, that we're going to do music of a very high quality. We take our approach to the art very seriously. They know that we esteem the local church and that we're going to honor them and work under their leadership. And they know that we're going to give a very clear, culturally relevant presentation of the gospel.
Good. So how does somebody get involved with you guys? Like, do you have a headquarters or is there applications? What happens?
Yes, both of those things are true. We have ministry centers here in the U.S. We have one in Poland. We have one in the southern part of Europe in Croatia, and we have one in South America in Peru. And then we have some other places where we go, but we can't be officially recognized. So every year, like for example, this year we have, in addition to the ongoing ministries at these ministry centers, we have 15 short-term tours this year for people who want to be involved. So this is always led by senior staff, people who've been in the ministry for many years. working with local believers. Churches invite us to come, or mission groups in other countries. And then we put together teams and go to these places, usually about 2 weeks, but sometimes longer, depends. Some people have actually done internships while they've gone to these countries and stayed for some period of time to work in local churches or local ministries. But most of the time, it's a short-term trip to serve these ministries. So on our website, people can go there, and when they open it up at the top, it says "Get Involved." You click on that, and then there's a host of mission opportunities. It tells you the dates, where we're going, what kind of things we're doing, and that's where you start. And if you feel God might be prompting you to do that, we encourage people first thing to fill out an application, because then you get people praying for you and you start thinking seriously about where God would have you to go. And then we look at your skill set and your interest, and we try to find an appropriate place for you to go be a part of something very significant in telling people about Christ.
Do I have to be a musician to apply? Do you need like stage hands and gophers and
Yes, we need all kinds of people. Typically, if we say we had a music tour that had 10 musicians, we would probably have at least 20 people on the tour. When we go out, we do need people who can at least learn some basic skills for setup and takedown. It's not extremely difficult or technical, things that people can learn very quickly. And also, there's a matter of handing out literature, inviting people, working a book table, talking to people one-on-one afterwards with translators if necessary. Although most of the places we go, young people speak English and want to learn. And so if you speak English, you're probably going to find somebody else that speaks English.
how young will you take somebody?
We will take people, if they come with a parent or guardian, they can come even when they're in high school. If they're going to come by themselves, we want them to be 18 years of age or older.
And then do you do 1 2-week term or can you do many of them? Is there a longer option?
There are always longer options. Most people who come usually just want to come for a couple of weeks, but we do have opportunities for people to come longer. As I said, they might have some kind of an appointment that would be working overseas somewhere. We just had a young lady a couple of years ago who was very interested in photography. And so we set up an internship for her with a professional photographer. She went on tour to Ireland, to Scotland, excuse me, and then had a great time, got involved with the ministry and went back and worked there for several months. So those kind of things definitely can happen, and we're open to that and want to facilitate that happening when it's appropriate.
Right now I have a whole bunch more questions, but I'm gonna give
Okay.
Amanda a turn.
Okay. So, John, one of the things about your name is that a quick Google search, there's lots and lots of different proclaims that pull up on a quick Google search. So,
Mhm.
one of the things I would love for you to do is, if you can, drop in the chat log the one that takes them to where people could find out what things are.
Yeah,
If you
it's
do that,
Proclaim International, all written out.com.
.com.
Yeah.
proclaiminternational.com. Yeah, because I just Googled and there's some Proclaim is a popular name. So
It is. And it's really interesting. I don't know if you realize this, but there is no national database to register names. So we started our organization 25 years ago in Oregon, and we're operating in Florida. It's what's called a foreign corporation. But when we got here, we found out there were 4 other organizations in Florida using the name Proclaim. So it's a shame that there's not some kind of a database so you can, make a better distinction. But
Kind
it's
of
okay.
URLs are that way now. I know when I'm starting a new business, I plug into Google variations of the names I want to call it to see who's
Right.
using it for what before I go to GoDaddy to see what's available to buy. So, but
Yeah,
you're right, there isn't one.
we actually started Proclaim. I was a part of Greater Europe Mission for almost 20 years, and we were using Proclaim as the name of our department. So we really started back in the 80s with that name. But when we came back to the States was when we found out there were conflicts. But by that time, we'd already been using the name for 20 years. So yeah, it is what it is.
So, John, one of the things you do is you're alongside churches in the countries to which you go. But
Yes.
tell me how you encourage musicians in their ordinary life, if this is their ordinary life and they're doing this alongside, to be involved in their local church. Because
Mhm.
it can be easy for churches to take advantage of good musicians, but also it's the gift that the musicians have for the church. So tell me about that journey.
Yeah, we do a lot of that. In fact, this trip that I'm taking to this other country is in centers really around training Christian musicians. So we do seminars to help them understand what their service is to the church, to teach them what the Bible teaches about arts and music and its place both in worship and evangelism. Um, there needs to be a lot of education done because sometimes churches don't appreciate musicians and make room for them the way they should. You know, after Sunday morning, they don't really know what to do with them after that. And sometimes it's very difficult for those who are highly skilled and have given themselves to it to have the support of the church if they want to be professional musicians. It's kind of like, boy, I don't know, because you're going to have to play places that are not church. How's that going to work? When I was in seminary, I had a man come to me, and he was a very sincere, very wonderful Christian man, but he really thought that as a professional musician, I should only play in church. And I asked him what he did for a living. He said he was a plumber. And I said, well, do you only do plumbing in churches? Or do you only do plumbing for Christian people in their homes? And he said, well, no, that's not possible. I said, and you understand that music can be a ministry and it can also be a profession. And so the church often has need to understand that. Um, this country where I'm going, which is a closed country, uh, I was on a Zoom call like this one, talking with some of the musicians there, and one of them informed me. He said, "In our country, it's very different. We have a problem. I'm sure you don't have." I said, "What is that?" He said, "Well, the older people don't like the new music." And I said, "Well, I have good news and bad news for you." And that is that this is not only in your culture, but every culture around the world. And it's been going on for centuries in the church. It's just something that we have to face, and we have to think about it correctly to understand that we are all servants of one another. And God wants us to use our gifts, whatever they are, to serve the church, to glorify Christ. So there's a big ministry in encouraging Christians to do their best, to be excellent in what they do, to be biblically grounded in what they do, and for the church to also understand that they have a responsibility to think rightly about artists, even though artists are a little strange sometimes.
Lee, I would like to follow up with one of these questions. So let's say that we have somebody who is not sure they're excellent at their art, but they know they love it. What kinds of
Mhm.
questions do you ask them or tools do you give them to help them evaluate what is excellence?
Yeah, we are ready and expect to take people where they are and help them advance from wherever they are. We don't want to put them in a situation where they're going to experience failure. We want them to succeed. So no matter what kind of a tour we have, no matter the level of professionalism in the people that are performing, there's always a place for someone who's learning, who's a beginner, a place to encourage them. If I do my best, I'm honoring the Lord. Now, when God wanted musicians for the temple, he didn't hold an Israel's Got Talent contest. It says he went to the Levites, the people who were already dedicated to the Lord, and from those, he chose those who were trained and skilled. So that's a process. You may have a gift, but have you received training? And then have you developed that training so that you can become skillful? So we're ready to encourage people in that process, no matter where they are.
I have a question about the funding for that.
Mhm.
It's like a lot of mission groups, you raise your own funding?
Yeah, typically we do have a few tours where sponsors actually pay most of the costs.
Mhm.
But one of our favorite mantras is God pays for what he orders.
Mhm.
So if he calls you to go, he's going to provide. Yeah, and that's not just monetarily, but that's in your strength and your health and in every other way. If God wants you to do something and you're certain of that, then you should have confidence that he's going to provide for you to do what he wants you to do.
Yeah, I asked that because you spoke about training and helping people along, and so I'm trying to figure out at what point do you do that? Once I've been accepted on one of these short-term missions, or only for the long term? How are you helping these people get better at their instruments?
Well, it depends on what kind of opportunity they want to take up. We just were at a large Christian university last week in Indiana, and we offer accredited internships. They have to work. We have to work with their schools to find out what they need. And again, it goes back to when are they available? Can we put them in an appropriate situation where they can learn the style of music, the time of year, what's the makeup of the musical team? And it's not just music; we do other things as well. So it's trusting the Lord to help those people find the right place where they can grow. So we can do anything from something that's very informal to actually providing for people to get college credit.
So it sounds like someone just needs to go to your website that's interested in this and explain a little bit about their situation, and you'll help them find the right fit for.
Yeah, exactly. When they fill out an application in there, they're going to be talking about what their background is, what their interest is. Some people come and they say, I have this period of time when I want to do something. Other people say, I'm really interested in, you have a ministry in Peru, or I'm really interested in South Africa, or that, they may be drawn by God to a specific type of ministry or a people group, or they might just say, man, I want to serve the Lord. I don't really know when or where, except I have 2 weeks in July, that kind of thing.
Yeah, because my other question then is, oh shoot, it just went out of my head. Amanda, do you have one? It was related
Well,
to that. Okay, good. I know what that is, but you go
if
ahead.
you found it, go ahead.
You mentioned the word style of music, and
Yes.
then you also mentioned that you do more than music. Could you describe those two things?
Yeah. We do a lot of camps around the world, usually in places where there are children or people that are in bad situations. So we do a lot in South Africa with kids in townships. In Peru, we've been doing quite a bit in Poland for Ukrainian refugees. So in those situations, we're teaching conversational English. That's one of the draws. But we also play games and have fun. And then we also try to introduce skills, especially in South Africa. These kids in these townships have very little hope for the future. So we teach sewing, cooking, computer skills, depending on who we have coming. We offer all kinds of different. We had a guy come who taught self-defense, and that was very popular with these kids because they're in dangerous situations and to know how to protect themselves. So yeah, we do those camps. We have a dance troupe that comes every year, and they always go somewhere in South America. And also there we have a mime team that goes out that does mime at a very high artistic level. We have visual artists who come and join our teams. We have people doing video and online production in Poland, where we have a studio. So there's just a lot of different kinds of things that we do. Mostly what we do is music because it's the thing that works the most often. And you asked me about the different styles. We don't start a group and then book them. We get invited by someone to help them do ministry, and we go in and say, what kind of a music group would attract people? What can we do to make it easy for people to come and hear the gospel? And then we put together the style of music that will work. For example, we have a bluegrass group that's going to be in Poland this year. And last year they were in Scotland, and the year before that they were in Greece, because we just offer we say here's a big variety of musical styles that we do, and would one of these be interesting to you? We have some highly professional jazz musicians, people who really love the Lord, but actually are world famous jazz musicians. And that has opened the doors for us in many closed countries. And the very next tour that we do in May is going to be in Poland, where this group has gone many times. And we play in concert halls, we play in music schools, and churches use those opportunities as a way to get into part of the population that they probably wouldn't meet otherwise.
You're muted, Lee.
Oops, you're muted.
Lee, you're muted.
There you go.
All right. You keep talking about the, going, the groups going back. So do people come regularly for these 2 week short term, or are these more your long termers that are it's more stable?
No, we always have full-time staff leading all these, but we have a group of about 12 or 13 people that we call associates who make a commitment to come at least once every year. And then we have a lot of short-termers. So
I see.
probably each year we have 60, 70, 80 short-termers come join our teams from the US, but we also have short-termers that come from our other ministry locations. So when we're in South Africa, we might have people from Peru and Belarus and Ukraine and Germany and France. And so it's very much international teams.
So, John, you're a very interesting person. Amanda, you always find great guests. So, my question for you is, are you more of a musician or are you more of an entrepreneur making all this happen?
Um, I don't know that there's that much difference between being a musician and being an entrepreneur. They both require you to be creative and to be willing to take a big gulp and jump off the cliff.
I can see that.
I
Yeah, you're
think
constantly finding gigs and things, right? You're always trying to find a place to play.
yeah, we have some people in these ministry centers. We have people who are being sought out to help, national churches or churches in the area.
Mhm.
For example, when we're in Peru, we're not just working in Peru, even though our headquarters is there. We're working in Colombia, Chile, uh, um, Ecuador, other places in the area where they're coming to our headquarters there, to our head of staff, Reno Beretta, and they're asking him, "Hey, can you help us? Can you bring a team?" And sometimes they're not just bringing Americans. Sometimes they're just going on their own with their own teams from Peru. And that's the same with ministries in Poland and Croatia. They're full time in the ministry all year round. And when they need help, then we put teams together to go help them.
John, it
Yes.
sounds fascinating. It sounds complex. It sounds like you can do a little bit of anything. But it also sounds like you've been doing this for a chunk of time.
Mhm.
Is the younger generation stepping up to support these teams, or is that another marker and milestone in the ministry?
I tell you what, I am really encouraged to see how whatever we want to call the newest one, Gen Z. Is there a newer name than that for the high
I
schoolers?
call them young men and women is what we call them.
Yeah. I'm really amazed how willing they are to come join us. Um, we we need more of them because there's more to do than we can possibly do. Like I said, we started out with 18 projects this year. We have 15 left. We're still recruiting actively. We get a lot of college students. We get a lot of people that are right out of high school coming to help us. And I think it's an impressive group of people. They have I teach on Sunday nights at our local church. I teach college kids, and I see a lot of anxiety when they look at the world. It seems like a pretty unstable and scary place. But I also see Christian young people stepping up and trusting God and being willing to follow him and trust him and go places that are a little bit risky. If there's no risk, there's no faith. So there's going to be some risk for everybody.
Always
But I'm
is.
really amazed at had the courage, and yeah, it's very encouraging to me to see young people stepping up.
Are there some, you mentioned colleges, are there some colleges that tend to feed into your program where people are really aware of you?
We have people coming from a lot of different places, but we have a couple of a few schools that are kind of use us as their main outlet for doing internships. And one of these is a school that almost nobody has heard of, but it's called Visible Music College, and it's in Memphis, Tennessee. And it was started by a guy who came out of the rock band, Christian rock band called Skillet. And
Mhm.
he decided he wanted to help Christian young people develop professionally, and he wanted to help them grow spiritually. And we have formed a strong partnership with them. And so we're involved with them. We go by the campus a couple of times a year and speak with the students. And last year we had 4 interns from that school. And but we have individuals that come from other places. So this is a pretty new concept for us to do these internships for college students to offer credit. We had people coming, but we never thought of going that extra step to actually formalize it. So that's a pretty new project for us, but it's been very, very successful, and we're getting more and more interest in it.
Yeah, so it gives them that secondary incentive. I would think their first one would be serving the Lord. The second one would be just run great experience. It sounds like you provide for them, and then isn't that nice if you can get some college credit while you're at it?
Yeah, so many Christian schools want people to have practical experience.
Hmm.
So it's a beautiful combination of things to be able to give them opportunity. Plus, we get encouraged by them, and we get to help mentor them and help them grow in their skills and in their walk with the Lord. So it's win all the way around.
So, John, one of the wins that we all agree on is people growing in the Lord. So tell me
Mm.
how you do that for your participants. How do you help them grow in the Lord? What are you using? How are you training that? What are you encouraging?
Yeah, you know, we most of us have a double preparation. So most of us have like a degree, master's degree in music and a master's degree in theology or from a Bible school or seminary. So what we see in the scriptures is that Jesus mentored people by saying, "Come with me." He didn't get his disciples together and say, "Okay, guys, I want you to read Isaiah chapter 53, and next Tuesday night we'll meet at Peter's house and talk about it." He was with them every day. So we have materials that we use. We have some books that we send out for people that are coming to help them prepare. We send them a lot of information about the country where they're going to be going. And then we're with them every day. We go out witnessing with them. We give them some input up front, but there's no better way to teach evangelism than to actually go out and talk to people. And then, I team up with somebody who's never done it before, and we do it together. And then we have this instantaneous feedback of, hey, when he asked you this, maybe you should have said that. What about that? So it's a combination of things that are prepared, but it's mostly lives pouring into other lives.
Tell us about the living accommodations during the missionary 2 weeks. I suspect they're all different, but are they generally families hosting you, or are you paying for hotels? What's-
It's really a combination. It depends upon the socioeconomic situation where we
Mm.
go. There are many places we go where the people are too impoverished and they already have too many people in their homes to have us in their homes. So we're usually in, some kind of public thing, hotels, motels. We have other places where there are maybe several, Christian schools where we can go. This is true if we're going to be stationary. Like when we go to Lima, Peru. Lima is a city of 8 million people. So you're not going to run out of people to talk to anytime soon. And there during the summer, we stay in a Bible school seminary and in that housing. And so we stay there every night. And then during the day, we travel all throughout Lima. Other places, we're traveling from town to town. We might be in a different town every night. So it really depends on the country, the availability they have. There's no set rule, except
Mhm,
We don't want to be a burden on the people.
mhm.
So that's one of the reasons we raise money. By the way, there are a lot of groups that do short-term things. Our goal is not, we don't try to make any money on the short-termers. We try to break even. So we charge them exactly what it costs to get there, be fed and housed. I don't have anything against people doing it any other way, but a lot of people actually fund their ministry by, charging a little extra for their short-term trips. But we just don't do that. We don't think that's the way God wants us to operate.
Good.
Lee, do
Anything
you
else?
have any other questions?
No, I just want to I'm tired from 2 days of meetings. I'm ready to sign up, John. So tell me about the kind of like the intellectual atmosphere of it. It seems like, you're working to meet people and evangelize, you're playing music, or your team's, sitting around talking about great books or movies, or like what's this cultural vibe within your team when you're together?
Well, we strive to be a learning mission.
Mhm,
We do a lot of reading together. We do a lot of study of books, understanding the religion, the culture, where we go. We do a lot of that. Um,
Do
it's a
you do that
really,
before you go or while you're there?
it's kind of an ongoing thing.
Okay.
Usually we're talking and discussing things, of course, before we go to prepare.
Mhm,
But while we're on our trips, you'll see a lot of reading and a lot of discussion going on. We tend to attract people that want to think and learn and grow, not just have an experience that's, just tickling their ears. But we tend to draw people that are very serious about expanding their worldview, understanding cultures. It's you just get more out of the opportunity, and the people you meet get more out of your communication if you understand them. You
mhm,
understand where they're coming from, and you're able to speak to their condition and not come in and sort of be the ugly American that thinks
mhm.
the way we do everything is correct, because that's certainly not true.
If you go on a short-term mission with you, is there some recreation time so you could go see a major landmark or not really? You're just busy?
Usually it's kind of like if you look out the left window, you'll see the Eiffel Tower. We
Okay.
have some time, but mostly it's not a lot of there is some free time.
Mhm,
And a lot of times we're say we go into a city and we have an evening concert, we'll go in the morning and people have an opportunity to look around. But it's not sightseeing.
okay.
That happens.
Mhm.
And we do have days off where people get an opportunity to do that. But if you think that this sightseeing tour with a little bit of ministry thrown in, it's exactly the opposite. It's a ministry tour with a little bit of sightseeing, but a lot of cultural input and a lot of spiritual input.
Mhm. Well, it sounds like you know what you're doing, and I've really enjoyed this. Amanda, do you have any more questions?
I do have one,
Good.
well, two more. So John,
Mhm.
Reentry is you've been in this intense one. Music tends to be very emotional experience. You've been in a foreign culture. You've eaten foreign food. You've had an intense ministry. The Lord has met you. It's been probably very mountain high with a little bit of trouble thrown in. How do you prepare your people for reentry, or what kinds of things would you want them to think about?
Well, we do some follow-up. We do some evaluation. We want to know what they got out of it, what they didn't get out of it. We're constantly evaluating. For those students who come and do internships, it's always built into the internship. That's one of the really good things about it being a little bit more formal. A lot of people go and they enjoy it, but even though we try to follow up, they're on with their lives and they're not particularly interested. But we have an awful lot of people who return over and over again because they find it fulfilling and stimulating, and they want more. So we like that.
So, John, my last question is this one. It's not about Proclaim, it's about you when you were
Okay.
young.
Mhm.
Not saying you're not young at heart still, but young. How do you encourage a young musician to keep going when they're a little bit angsty, a little bit frustrated? What is it you would have told your 18-year-old or 19-year-old self?
Um, I would have told me what my mentor told me at the time.
Okay.
I had a mentor who was a wonderful man of God and was a musician and really understood. And he said, you know, music is a great gift for communicating the gospel. And it's also um, a talent that God wants you to use for him. So you can think about your gift and your talent in terms of getting the approval of man, or you can think about your talent as given from God and you're responsible to him and you get your approval from him. And he said, you have an audience of one. And when you please God, that's all you need to worry about. And I found that pleasing God was challenging enough without trying to worry about what people thought. But I also knew that God wanted me to glorify him by being excellent at what I did. So that excellence is to please him, not to attract attention to yourself. And that's a struggle that goes on through life. Doesn't just happen when you're 18. But as you move through that, and when you do begin to get good and people applaud you, you think, well, yeah, how about that? And the God has this wonderful way of keeping you humble and reminding us that we are serving him and him alone.
Good. Okay, well, thank you so much for the time you've given us. It was really great to
Well,
learn
thank
more
you.
about you. And I'm gonna look up, as you said, it was called Visible in Nashville. That might be another
Visible,
ministry.
Visible Music College.
Okay.
Visible Music College.
Yeah, we're always looking for alternatives to that state university, trying to
I
tell our
tell you,
students.
it's a cool place. And if there's some young people that want to develop their skills either in worship or evangelism, or they think they want to go into some kind of professional thing in music, it's a great school, great place to go.
All right. Well, God bless you and your
Thank you.
ministry. And uh, all of our listeners, please go to proclaiminternational.com and learn more. Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks, Lee. Thanks,
Thank
John.
you. Nice talking to
Bye.
you. Bye.